name is Ryan Hill, and I love nature and animals, and you're tuned in to Climate Action Figures.
Well, hello and welcome to a brand new edition of Climate Action Figures. My name is John Whidden, and this week on the show, you get to meet a young man who has done amazing things in very few years. But first, this week's quick fix from Lisa from Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society in Calgary. Lisa says, turn the thermostat down when you go to sleep. Well, thank you very much, Lisa, for that. And shout out to CPAWS for all the great work they do to protect our public land and water. And now, welcome, Ryan.
Hi. So for us, what we actually use, our thermostat, we have a automatic thermostat. So during the night, it shuts off and then turns on. So it's an automatic control.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So that's great.
Thank you.
Now, Ryan, you are a musician, a dancer, an actor, so triple threat, an author, a protector of living things, a drummer. You participate in martial arts. I could probably go on, and you've done all that, and you're, 85 years old to have accomplished all that?
I'm 13.
13. Wow, that's a lot to do in 13 years. Your schedule must be pretty jam-packed, I'm guessing.
Yes. Yeah, keeps me busy.
How do you keep that in balance in your life?
Well, my mom is definitely a big part of that. Like, she's so amazing. She drives me around everywhere, and she's always been an amazing support for everything, for acting and helping me, and even for learning scripts and stuff, like helping me with my sides. And yeah, so she's a big part of managing all that.
So would you call her your manager?
Yes. Yeah. The best manager you can have. Yeah.
This podcast is a place for young people to share what they are doing to mitigate climate change. And we'll get to that for sure. Yes. But we can't just let all those other things go. Do you mind if we get just slightly off topic
that's totally fine.
Well, that's great, because I have been told that you have acted with the Academy Award-winning Joaquin Phoenix. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, you have to tell us a little bit about that experience. Did you get great acting tips from him? What was it like to be on set with him?
That was actually really an incredible experience. And I actually have one story to tell you. So we go on set, and the people on set are like, don't look at him, don't talk to him, like let him be in his own zone for acting. So they're like, just like, keep your distance, don't be like, go up to him. And so we were like, hey, totally fine. And so after I finished filming, I did this scene with him. And then we're walking to the trailers, and I see him coming, like walking to me. And he's like, hey, there's my man. And he walks up to me and gives me a big hug. And he's like, you were so incredible. He's like, thank you so much for making the acting job so easy. He's like, it was such an honor to be able to work with you. Like, I can't believe I was able to work with you. I'm like, are the roles reversed? It felt like so weird, because like it was such an honor to be able to work with him. Like, he's such an incredible and talented person. And then we actually talked about the climate and the environment, and we talked about our love for animals, because he's actually vegan and an amazing climate activist. And then he's like, the director and me were talking about you. You're just such an incredible actor. And then he's like, bust out some dance moves or something. And then I started like doing this dance, and he started dancing, and it was really a lot of fun. And then he's like, wait, can we get a picture together by any chance? And then I'm like, sure. Like, they basically said, like, don't take a picture with him, don't do anything. And that was just really sincere and unreal.
Oh, that's very cool to hear that he has such a warm human side. So do you still have that? You have that photo, I imagine. You'll have to share that with us. We'll put it up on our social media so we can, so people can imagine what you're talking about. And we should ask what the name of the film was that you were his son in the film.
Yes, the film was called Beau is Afraid.
Beau is Afraid,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
Great. And before we leave this, did you pick up any great acting tips? Because you're an actor yourself.
Yes, yeah. I think what really helped was him. Like, he gives such energy and like just how he deals with like the scenes and stuff. It's so amazing because I just felt it was really easy to feed off of his energy because like in that scene I was being taken away from him and we were in like this like flash flood and I was getting like taken away and put underwater and stuff and he was like help and like screaming and stuff and just his energy really helped to feed off of and I think it was a really great opportunity and I feel like I learned a lot from him.
Really drew you
Yeah.
into the scenes with him. Eh?
Yes.
All right, that's fascinating. But let's get back on the environmental
Yes.
rails. And we talked with your father last week on the show, and it sounds like your mom and dad have been environmental
Yes.
action figures for you for a long time. So tell us a bit about the part they have played in inspiring you.
Well, since I was born, they took me outside. I was always outside, always barefoot, always connecting with animals and nature and hugging trees. And I just always loved nature because I basically grew up in nature. Like, nature is my second home. They actually started a forest school with all these kids. So all my friends were there, and then they had activities teaching us about indigenous and native plants. They taught us really useful stuff to know, and then they taught us like survival skills, how to build shelters, how to make a fire, and always leave no trace. So never like take stuff out of nature, always leave no trace, and to be respectful. So like if you're going to make a shelter, don't break branches, use the dead branches that have already fallen and be aware that there are insects and living under them to not destroy their habitat. So that was a really fun experience.
Now, your father said that he said that most of us tend to have a very cognitive relationship with the natural world, whereas you, Ryan, seem to have a very emotional relationship with the natural world. Do you have thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, I've always felt very in touch with animals and Mother Nature and everything. Once this frog jumped onto my hand, and it just stayed there for like 5 minutes, and I find I really connect with plants, animals, and I just feel alive and like at home and safe when I'm in nature. Same with like there was once this wolf that her name was Luba. She was a red wolf, and my friend had a friend who owned this 800-acre property, so massive property, and there was this wolf Luba that I actually bonded with, which was pretty cool because she still like hunted and stuff. Like she was still a wild wolf, but she was so friendly. She just came over and I could pet her and stuff. Yeah, so I always felt like I could find a safe place with animals and the animals could find a safe place with me.
Wow. So this wolf was totally wild
It
and it
was
would just come to you and allow you to.
the guy that actually owned the place. It was his, not his wolf, but he, like, it was on the property and then something happened or she got injured or something and then he took care of her and stuff and like but he still let her hunt so she still had her wild instincts and
Wow,
yeah.
very cool. Now, your dad also said we would not likely make it through the interview without talking about monarchs and
Yes.
pangolins. So, how did those hit your radar and become so important to you?
Well, first I'll start with the monarchs. Since I was 4, like since I've walked outside a lot, I've seen these milkweed plants. And then David Suzuki did an episode on monarchs too, so I learned some about like on documentaries. And from there, I learned that milkweed plants are what the monarchs eat. So then, ever since then, I've been planting milkweeds on our property. And then, actually, from the forest school, we did a session that we were raising monarchs, actually. So from there, I learned everything about how to raise monarchs and stuff. And then from there, I'm like, I have to save these endangered species because the monarchs are actually an endangered species, sadly. So then, ever since I was 4, I've been raising monarch butterflies. So, and that's really an amazing experience. I'll tell you the process of raising the monarchs. So, first you take the milkweed plants and then put them into water. Then you find the caterpillars from a very young stage. They eat the milkweed to keep on. You need to refill the milkweed plants and clean all the poop away because they poo a lot in there. So, you clean everything, you refill the water, and then they go into this J. So they put like this silk onto wherever the milkweed or the top of the ceiling of the enclosure, and then they go into this J, and then from there we actually filmed it once. That was so cool. The whole process of them turning into the chrysalis. So they slowly turn into the chrysalis, and then they turn green, and then the gold goes around the chrysalis, and then you wait sometimes a week, sometimes a few days, and then it turns in the chrysalis. Then they turn into a butterfly, and then so they need to first pump their wings to dry their wings. Then we leave them in there. Then we feed them to give them energy. So we feed them from their proboscis, which is really cool. We take a toothpick and then feed them from their proboscis, and we make this like liquid with it's water and honey. So then they eat that, and then we release them onto their flight to Mexico.
Wow, that's quite a
Yeah.
process. We should talk about pangolins as
Yes.
well. And to be honest, I had to look up a picture of a pangolin
Yeah.
to see what it is. So you should probably describe to our listeners what a pangolin looks like before you tell us how you got so involved with
Yeah,
them.
a lot of people like actually are like penguins. Like they think it's a penguin. But how I actually got involved with pangolins is I was watching an episode on David Suzuki about pangolins, and then they're actually one of the most highly trafficked animals in the world. There I just was heartbroken. I just felt like I have to do something to save these animals. So David Suzuki really inspired me to protect these endangered species. I don't really like candy. So Halloween was coming up, and I was like, why don't I raise money for the pangolins instead of asking for candy? And because I used to just ask for candy and just give them to my friends and be like, here, there's what I got. So I thought, why don't I raise money for the pangolins? So from there, I contacted my friend, who's an amazing sewer. So she made this amazing, really cool costume of a pangolin to put on for Halloween. So then I went from door to door working with the WCN. I actually became an ambassador for the WCN from there. So I went from door to door asking for money, and people were like, wow, this is so cool. Like, because they had no idea what pangolins were before this. And everyone was really supportive around the town. They were really like, thought that was really cool. And then from there, I was working with the WCN. So my goal was to raise $1,000, and I hit that goal and gave that to the WCN to work and save the pangolins. And then from there, I've been doing runs. Like I did a run to raise money for pangolins and been working with them.
Are pangolins endangered?
Yes.
Now, this is the second time we've heard David Suzuki's
Yes.
name. Does he continue to be a big influence on you?
Yes, definitely. And actually, one of the most honorable, really cool thing was I actually got to meet David Suzuki at a convention that he was doing in our town. So he was talking about, and I told him about the Monarchs. I'm like, you're such an inspiration. It's like such a amazing role model, and that was really amazing to meet your climate action hero.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. So was he kind of what you expected when you met him?
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's very knowledgeable and really, really nice.
Now, Ryan, let's take a moment to talk about your writing. Last year, you wrote a short story
Yes.
and entered it in the Voices of Future Generations North American Child Authors 2023 contest, and you won. So congratulations. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that story?
Well, actually, my friend, she knew about the competition coming up. She was working with VOFG, Voices of Future Generations Children's Initiative, and she said, like, oh, I know you like writing stories, and I know you're a creative person. Would you like to do this? So I made the story, and I'm like, yeah, but I read the other stories. I'm like, these kids are geniuses. Like, they're really smart kids, the other kids. I'm like, I didn't expect to win or anything. So I entered the story just for a cool experience. And then I log on to when they announced the winner. And when they said Brian Hill, I was like, oh my God, like this is insane. So then I became an ambassador for Voices of Future Generations, which are also actually, they're associated with the UN, which is pretty cool too. So from there, I just recently actually sat on a round table for the conventions on the rights of the child. And then I also sat on the committee for the Goals Project. For the Goals Project, I actually made a video saying what SDGs I was doing in my own community. So there I talked about saving the the saving the Monarchs, and I actually wrote a note letter to the town council to make our town a monarch friendly town. And I'm happy that now our town is actually a monarch friendly town. And then what was really inspiring was the video was shared with 3,000 schools around the world. So all these kids were writing me these like
Wow.
letters and like, oh my God, I'm so inspired by you. And they were saying what they're doing in their town. So that was just amazing to like connect with all these kids and see what they were doing. And really nice to see that they were inspired by what I was doing. And it was just a really unreal, amazing experience.
Ryan, social media is such a crazy thing these
Yeah.
days. To reach youth, we seem to need it, but it certainly has its drawbacks.
Mm-hmm.
You have a very insightful Insta feed, Lil Debunk, which is pretty entertaining and also very poignant. Tell us your perspective on social media.
My parents were never like a big fan of social media. They didn't really want me to get it. And my agent actually said, "Okay, since you're an actor, you need to make a brand for yourself and you need to like get on social media, make yourself known, show what you do and all." So I got Instagram. Like I don't do other like Snapchat or that stuff because I don't know. There's been stories with that and stuff that like can happen on those, and I'm not on my phone a lot, so don't do like social media a lot. But so my mom actually, she runs my Instagram account. From there we built my following, and like from Little Debunked, actually, since you mentioned it, that was a really cool experience. The director, she's an amazing director. We just had so much fun on that. The one I actually did was on plastic recycling. So that was really interesting because I'm really passionate about plastic recycling, and it was basically talking about that plastic recycling is a sham and all the different pros and cons, or more cons than pros, about plastic recycling.
Right. Well, we'll put a link to
Yes.
that in our show notes here and on our social media as well. And before we wrap up here, we definitely need to get to your climate action. Well, the whole interview's been a lot
Yeah.
about your climate actions, but do you have a specific one you've picked for us today?
I think out of all my climate actions, the one that I would pick is for protecting animals. To protect the animals and make sure that they're always safe. Because I find people just think like, oh yeah, animals, they're not like humans. They don't have feelings. They're not as smart. Okay, some may not be as smart. Some are very intelligent and they have feelings just like us. I really want people to treat animals how they treat humans.
If they treat
Yeah,
humans well,
if they treat,
that is
yeah, not, yeah.
right.
Uh-huh.
With all these talents you've nurtured, Ryan, we didn't even get to drumming and the details of your dancing and everything else. But do you have some dream to bring them all together? Maybe write, direct, and act in the first ever Tony Award-winning musical about pangolins? Or are you just going to wait and see what life brings to you?
Well, actually, my dream is to be on Broadway and dancing and singing, and it all,
Oh,
I find all the activities that I do have compliments on each other. Like dancing will have compliments on karate with like the flexibility and coordination of hand and arm movements. But my big dream is to use my acting voice and platform to reach awareness around the world for environmental issues, and to use that voice to talk about the environment and make more people interested and passionate and working to help and make this world a better place.
well, that's a laudable goal. And we need to ask then also, if you could pick any role in any musical for yourself at any point in your future, which would it be?
That's actually a hard one. Probably, I mean, this isn't a musical, but it would be really cool to be in Harry Potter, because that's like such an incredible play.
Ah,
They
okay.
made a Harry Potter play, and I actually watched it in Toronto last year, and that's incredible. But if I could pick any role in any musical, I'd probably pick The Music Man. That's a fun one.
Harry?
Yeah, I actually auditioned for The Music Man with Hugh Jackman.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
And you're not quite old enough for the role of Harry, but
yeah,
someday
no,
you'll definitely jump into
I
that
went
role,
for
I'm
the
sure.
younger one. Yeah.
Now, Ryan, I'm sure as you were talking about the negative side of
Mm-hmm.
plastics and recycling, how we are misinformed
Yes.
sometimes about that and other things in the world that are kind of seemingly negative. With all that going around, what gives you hope?
I feel like what gives me hope is seeing people around the world trying to protect the environment, and seeing people also that have hope. Just like that just makes me feel hopeful. What also gives me hope is working with VOFG and stuff, just to really see that there's other people like me out there trying to protect the environment and working, again, like I said before, to make this world a better place.
Well, Ryan, clearly you're a very busy young man, so we thank you very much for taking the time to join us today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
And thanks also, of course, to your mom and dad for getting us connected and making sure this all happens smoothly. And we thank you, dear listener. We will be back again next week, same time, same place, to hear from another climate action figure. Until then,
go figures.
This has been Climate Action Figures. Our show is produced and hosted by John Whidden. Our creative consultant is Kayla McIntosh. Our theme song is Hawaii Vacation by Tavari. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Climate Action Figures. That's all one word. And if you have any other questions or comments that arose from this or any episode, feel free to reach out to us at climateactionfigures@gmail.com. And thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with another Climate Action Figure.